think the first thing we need to do is pour ourselves a cup of tea, some nettle tea. So my nettle tea, I always like to steep for at least 20 minutes. So anything that's really high in minerals, you want to steep for at least 20 minutes.
Okay.
Sometimes even 30, and some folks even steep their tea overnight.
Whoa. Get the maximum medicinal properties out of it.
Exactly, yeah. So I just thought as we were playing with nettle today, we'd kind of honor it and have a cup of tea each.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So some of the medicinal benefits of nettle tea is that it's an antihistamine, it's anti-inflammatory. So I always give this to my family during allergy season. Usually we'll start taking it in about January, February, and then just take it all throughout hay fever season. And it's got histamine in it, and it works as an antihistamine within your system. Yeah, so it's great. And it's also really nutritious. So it's got a lot of vitamins. It's got vitamin A and C and K and all of your B vitamins, and it's a superfood. Yeah, so it's amazing for you. So what I like to do when, so we've harvested our nettles now. Now what we're going to do is process them. The larger nettles we're going to be processing for tea. I always lay them out. If we had a little bit more time today, I would be laying them out outside for maybe like half an hour to an hour, and that's just going to allow the insects to kind of crawl off, because we talked about it earlier. It's a really nice host plant for a lot of the native insect and other species that, and it really promotes like biodiversity. So I like to leave them out so we don't get too many bugs and too many critters like in our tea. But what we're gonna do now, and you've got your glove on, is we'll just sort of hold it upside down, and you've got to maybe use your bowl there. And I personally just like to use the leaf for tea, but some folks will use the stem as well. But I just hold it upside down, and these have been in the bag for a little while, so they're a little bit wilted, but they're still like really good to work with. It's just really important to note too, like when you are harvesting, you want to honor the plant and use it right away. You don't want it to go bad. So always factor in processing time, because that's really the most timely piece to harvesting is the processing. The harvesting itself really doesn't take that long. So I like to just kind of hold it upside down and just snip just above the leaf where it meets the stem. And then when you get to this piece, sort of like the really new growth at the top, I can just kind of just chop it off like that. And then I'm going to compost that later. And that's going to be a lot of nutrients. I always find processing medicine super relaxing, as long as you've got the time for it. Actually, I've got So do you want to make the tea?
You're gonna get an Emmy.
Okay. Do you want to do it with your bare hands or? So make sure your hands are washed, which we've just washed them, and you can crumble it up and roll it up. So I leave them whole in a bag. So this is how I store them. And then I'll leave them whole in that bag until I'm ready to use them. So when I start to get like a little bit low in my nettle tea, then I'll take my bag out, crumble it up, and then I'll just fill my jar that I'm using like on the shelf.
Cool.
Yeah. But it just kind of keeps the vitality of the plant intact and all the medicine in by keeping it whole like that. And you can fill that up with your tea. And then we'll have a nice...
Is it crushed enough, or should we...
you could probably crush them, but maybe a little bit more, sure. It just means that more of the hot water will kind of transfer through. osmosis that will happen when you're making tea. So you want to open up as many of the cell walls as possible. And have stronger, more medicinal tea. That looks really good. And if you were to steep this tea overnight, it's going to get really, really dark. And you'll see a lot more of the chlorophyll in it too. It'll be almost like, it'll be greener versus that sort of minerally brown color. Yeah, that's great. As we talked about earlier, how it kind of shrinks down to nothing. So if I was to crunch up this whole bag, I would say it might not even fill that jar. So that's what I mean about just kind of paying attention to the quantities, how much your family uses, and then just making note of it every year. So maybe 8 or 10 of these will probably do my family for the season.
Yeah, that is a little nuts.
That's not a lot, yeah. So let's fill it up. So these are last year's nettles, and a lot of people ask me how long can I keep my dried plants for? And again, it's just intuition. So these still are very rich. You can see there's not a whole lot of difference from what I harvested last week from last year. A little bit lighter in color, but still really medicinal. So I would say that that's absolutely fine. And if you give it a smell, it still smells like nettle, it still looks like nettle, then it's absolutely fine to use. You can use herbs for up to 2 years. I think the general rule is a year.
Yeah.
But anything that just using your intuition looks good, it's good to use.
You just do the rest of the bag all at once?
Yeah, go for it. Are your hands kind of itchy?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll help you out. You're a pro now. Your uncle will be very proud.
I think so.
Yeah, so we were pretty much bang on. I would say the amount of one of these large Ziploc bags pretty much fills that mason jar of tea once it's crumbled. And if it was powdered, it would probably be even less, maybe a third. Yeah. So it's beautiful. Good job.
Beautiful.
Boy, May 2023.
Beauty.
Yeah.
At least you did it.
We did it.